Boy, oh boy, how sweet it is to be home. The Tigers take down the Crimson Tide 99-81 in a shellacking of the Crimson Tide in Neville Arena. This is our reaction stream. We're going to talk about the stories, the stats, and of course, the score. All that's coming up here right now. War Eagle Auburn family and War Eagle to our E2C network family as well. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, or if you're at home base of YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is always the case, we'd love for you to start off the stream by smashing that like button and posting where you're watching, your city, your state, all that good stuff with the War Eagle. Let us know you're here. And if there's any Alabama fans that are brave enough to come into the comments section or the live chat to make excuses, you're welcome to be here as well. Just behave yourselves and you can join in on the discussion too. The topic for today's live stream: Auburn versus Alabama, part 2. The game goes the Tigers' way 99-81 and pretty much was in Auburn's control from pretty much the end of the first half on. There was a little bit of a stretch there for Alabama where they started to get some steam going, but not much after that. So we have got a lot of talk about, some very big performances from some very usual names, but we want to give kudos where kudos is due, and some pretty good performances from Alabama on the road too. We want to be fair and balanced here as much as we can be, but let's just be honest. We know who the better team is now when you talk about it comparatively, and we'll talk about those comparisons very soon here. All right, let me go ahead and say hello to a bunch of the folks. We got WT checking in. We got Kevin checking in as well. We have Michael Spears, Chris Spears, I guess is what it is over there. Unbeaten Lake checking in. Thomas, Miss Jennifer online. Derzilla, Claire also checking in on X over there. Good to see you. Retribution, revenge, Devin says. I think those are all words that you could use to describe this game. And it is very sweet. It's what revenge is best served cold. And boy, was Alabama's shot pretty cold tonight at times. So I think that's courtesy not just of them having an off shooting night, but of the environment that they were in. It's pretty incredible. Scotty says, I just woke up sometime. Something happened, I guess is what he was trying to say there. So a lot of good folks already checking in and having fun with the stream. Let me just kind of open up the discussion for everybody a little bit. Can I take you back? Let me just take you back a little bit to 2 weeks ago at this point, to when Auburn was at Alabama, faced some adversity, really got down far in that game. About 14 points, I think, was the deficit. Erased that deficit and then stayed with Alabama to the end. Alabama pulls it out by the end of the game, though. They go on to Mississippi State and struggle mightily. Probably was the nastiest game they played all season. The next week, they come out, not the strongest team to face, but they go on to take on Vanderbilt and have a pretty good game there. And then go on to have one this past Saturday as well, and had a win as well. And then the Alabama game came. All the hype, all the talk, all the storylines, and you would think maybe this could be that little bit of a balloon that gets let out. There's too much emotion, too much focus on a lot of storylines around this game, but it wasn't. The Tigers rose to the occasion. So the story that you're seeing, the story that we've been building here, is that everybody that was hitting the panic button during that week, how do y'all feel now? This team is a very good basketball team. Alabama is a very good basketball team. Let me just be clear with that. Alabama is a very good basketball team. And we kind of embarrassed them a little bit. Opposite way, we weren't embarrassed at their place. It was just a good basketball game. Blue collar beatdown. Yes, it was. We could categorize it 1,000 different ways there. Would have liked 100, but that's my only complaint. I'm glad you brought this up, Chris. Let me talk about this a little bit. I would have loved to have seen that century mark for Bruce Pearl and this team. They flashed the stat, or at least talked about it on the screen on the TV broadcast, about how Alabama has not had 100 scored on them yet this season, which they talked about like that's some kind of rare thing. A lot of teams haven't had 100 scored on them yet this season. Obviously, that was in a lot of people's minds. But to me, it's almost more of a slap in Alabama's face when you put the walk-ons in and finish them out and just said, you know what, the 100's not important. Our walk-ons can finish you off the rest of the game. And they nearly did it too. Free throws. Come on. But I'll take that. Honestly, I don't really care about the 100. I know that if that's a complaint, it's a small one. But I'm happy either way. I'm just happy that this team responded the way that they did with what they faced against Alabama at their place. Oh man, so many comments coming in. We're not going to be able to keep up with all of them tonight, but we will try our best to do so. I won't believe Auburn basketball will win at Florida until they actually do it. That's obviously a good thing. We can talk about that a little bit later in the stream. Interesting that we had the walk. Interesting that when we had our walk-ons, they kept their starters in. Well, honestly, I wouldn't read too much into that. I would just think that everybody had foul trouble, so you just kind of had to use who was out there, you know. Way too many fouls called. I agree. I think this was one of those games where the refs were way too involved, both sides of the game. Now, if you're an Alabama fan, a lot of you check into a stream just to kind of poke your heads in or on the replay and just complain about the refs. Just go ahead and if y'all want to watch the comments section after the stream's over with, just watch the Alabama fans come in and foul. Fouls were called on both sides, and actually they were called a lot in Tuscaloosa too, but you didn't hear a lot of complaining about that. And I tried to shut down the complaints about that here on our stream because I didn't want to have the reverse situation happen here and us be inconsistent. Fouls, though, the pace of the game was affected at times. And yeah, you got to think that hurt Alabama a little bit. I mean, they had the most personal fouls. Let's see the total tonight. Alabama with 33 personal fouls. And wow, it's actually a lot closer than I thought it was. Auburn with 28. So only 5 more personal fouls. Now, when you look at the free throws that were shot, well over 80, a total of 85 total free throws attempted tonight, and both teams with 80% because I'm looking at that right now. So really slowed the game down, really kind of affected the pace at times. And if you want to talk about a complaint tonight, that's a complaint for me, is the refs affecting way too much of the flow of the game. Rhodes says Tiger use size and depth effectively to deliver a statement win over Alabama. And thanks for checking in from Fairhope. There's a lot of talk from the TV broadcast too about Auburn being a lot bigger than them, maybe like, strength wise, but they had a lot of height on Alabama's team. The problem was it wasn't as strong. It wasn't as poised. The dynamic duo tonight of Jaylen Williams and Janai Broome. In fact, let me just bring up a statement here. You all tell me if I'm being a little bit outlandish, and I probably am. I don't like to get into hyperbole, but I will on occasions like this. Everybody will remember a nice big duo of Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, Jaylen Williams, Janai Broome. What do you think? Comparison time? I'm not saying better. The proof will be in the pudding. A lot of times we talk about these comparisons and, it's hard to make those in the moment until we see the full product of the two of them together. But the front court of Jabari and Walker was legendary. If Janai and Jaylen do what they did tonight at home, on the road, at neutral sites, in postseason play, they very well, I can't even say it, very well may be on the same level of those two. It's a bit of a step out. I admit that, but I'm willing to take any flack that comes with that because they are playing really well together. What else are you guys talking about here? So many illegal screens from Nelson. Good gracious. Devin, one of the things that you will see in any sport, but especially in basketball, is a team takes on the identity of their coach. And I know it's easy pickings right now, but I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not a fan of Nate Coach's style, demeanor, um, clearly calculated, uh, backhanded commentary. And now I am somewhat referencing the high school joke or comment that he made. I don't think it was as calculated, but I think once he realized what he had said, how it would be taken, and he's fine with it at the same time. To me, you look at some of their young players and they play very rough, they play very undisciplined. And you could see that a lot in Nelson tonight. He is going to be quite the talent when he fills out. And I forget how old he is now, actually. I may be acting like he's too young, but not playing like an upperclassman if he is an upperclassman. So not shocked with the very undisciplined play, the fouling out, the not being able to take the jeering from the Auburn fans. You saw him motioning and talking with the Auburn fans. Dude, y'all did it at our place or your place. You're going to get it at our place, especially in a win like this. Take your loss, take your L, go sit down. It'll be okay. Your little jawing back and forth ain't going to be that big of a deal. Take your shut up juice and go sit down. My goodness, what a crybaby. Sorry, that got me a little fired up there. Chris asked a big question, and this is a big topic that gets brought up a lot. Most complete game of the year. What say you all? What do you think? I think it's easy to make that statement at home and can mask some deficiencies in other areas. I'm not saying that there were major deficiencies in other areas tonight, but I think it's a much more sure thing to make the statement most complete win if you do something like this on the road. So, had the situation been flip flopped, I would very much agree with you. We saw this performance at Tuscaloosa, most complete win. But it's still great, regardless of whether we agree with that or not. Offensively, at least, well, it's hard to argue with 100 points, right? Something was complete if it was almost 100 points. All right. I want to know. Let's bring it up. Kevin's already posted it here. Player of the game. Go look at some stats. We're going to talk through them a little bit. Tell me your player of the game for Auburn. Maybe it's easy. Maybe it's not. I think you got two really big candidates tonight to discuss in that category. And it looks like at first glance, their stat lines are pretty comparable. Jaylen Williams with more playing time tonight, and rightfully so. So let me read the two to you that I think most of you are going to hear. But if you've got somebody else, and right now, if you're in the comment section too, just give me one word: Williams or Broom. Who's your player of the game? Here's their stat lines. Jaylen Williams, 26 points, 8 for 13 from the field, 1 for 3 from three-point land, 9 for 10 from free throws, 90%, 6 rebounds, 3 personal fouls tonight. Janai Broom, 24 points, 7 for 16 from the field, 1 for 4 from the three-point line, 9 for 11 from the free throw line, and 7 total rebounds. So really, they give each other a little bit of cushion in different areas, meaning one had more points, one had more rebounds. They're pretty comparable. So when you say player of the game, I don't think it's as cut and dry as a lot of people may think it is. Player of the game to Janai, not based on the stats or anything, but give me Chris Moore. His effort tonight was awesome, at least 4 boards and 3 assists. I agree with you, and I'll say a little bit about that in just a little bit. KD is my player of the game for that defense on Sears. Man, he really got into his grill tonight. I think your player of the game has to either be Janai or Jaylen, and I'm a little biased because I'm a Jaylen Williams fanboy, so I'm just going to say Jaylen Williams. But let me say this about Chris Moore tonight. For everybody that continues to, frankly, because they're bored, try to push the narrative that Chris Moore doesn't need to start, you miss the intangibles of Chris Moore. Chris Moore, what was he like, out rebounded tonight several times? I think it was like 3 Alabama guys, and he just comes in from behind and swipes the ball from him, and then one dishes it out to make a score for somebody else getting the assist. Chris Moore is the role player of this team. He does exactly what he's supposed to do: not make mistakes, contribute when you can. And when I say this, it's going to sound like he's not worthy of something, but a space filler. You have to have space fillers on a roster, on a rotation. And Chris Moore is a Swiss Army knife that does more than just fill space. He does more than that. He just contributes in ways that sometimes are lost. So to me, Chris Moore is not given the credit he deserves a lot of time, to be honest with you. Our main focus is just hope that no one gets injured for the rest of the season. It happened to us in the past and has killed us. Don't worry about that, Unbeaten Lake. Don't worry about the future right now. Enjoy the moment. We can't predict what's going to happen in the future. Just enjoy it for now. If I have to pick between the two, I go with Jaylen. He showed how impactful he can be in a game, offense, defense, and tangibles, and that slam dunk is just amazing. Is that the best dunk of the year, y'all? Honestly, is it? I mean, just a straight up windmill. I don't know what was more exciting to end the half, that or KD just literally getting in the grill of Mark Sears. Mark Sears tried to come after KD. He didn't make a really strong effort and move toward it, but when KD got up in his grill, made the time run out, and he didn't realize it and totally embarrassed the kid and just started screaming away from him, the dude was not happy. He wanted to go say something at the very least, and I'm so glad the referees were there to direct him the other way. Again, a team takes on the identity of their coach. You may say, well, what does that mean about Bruce and KD? If you notice, there's a real emphasis for KD when he's going to celebrate away from the other team and with his team. Doesn't always do it, aka the last time he almost ripped the rim off at Ole Miss. But yeah, it is what it is. Jackson Webb, Jalen Williams masterclass. He is him. It was a masterclass of a game for him. They need to rename the basketball stadium after Bruce Pearl. They will not do that because of the amount of money that the Nevilles have donated. And frankly, I like the nickname the Nev because you never win when you come in there. But don't worry about that. Bruce will get his due when it is time. 715 tweets in 18 minutes. The memes are out in full force tonight. What else haven't we talked about? Storyline. Keep them coming. Let me walk you through some other individual stats tonight. We will talk about Trey Donaldson, 14 points. Really, really good night for him, especially early. I think he had a quick 6 points to start off the game. He is 100% from free throws too. Chris Moore didn't score anything tonight, but we talked about his 5 rebounds. We talked about his 3 assists, just intangibles getting forgot about when you don't score. Denver Jones 4, Katie Johnson 7, Aiden Holloway 6, hit a nice 3 when we needed him to. Chad Baker-Mazar with another solid night, 13 points for him. I'm going to butcher this name. Mushchalik, if he had made one more, he would have hit 100. He got his point on the night, and Dylan Cardwell with his 4, which included a nice alley-oop between him and Trey Donaldson. I continue to say that the Trey Donaldson and Dylan Cardwell connection is my favorite connection on this team. There's just something that goes there. I may say that, and then that may switch to Janai and Jaylen. Can we all just appreciate for 2 seconds that amazing dish that Janai gave to Jaylen on the alley-oop? I mean, he literally has his back to him, takes one look back, and just throws his over his shoulder for an alley-oop for Jalen Williams. What are you supposed to do if you're an opposing team, if they've got that good of a connection? The 2 big men, the front court. What are you supposed to do? I don't know. Free throw made record? What? I missed the notes on that if it was a record. I'll have to go look at that. Yeah, there's people talking about name the court after Bruce. I agree. I think that's coming, but he'll get his honors for sure. Once Aiden gets going again, this team will be even scarier. I agree with that. I think if we can continue to help Denver Jones come along too, I think that's another element that's lost in this. When we've seen him have a couple of more productive stat-wise games, last couple of games, not necessarily this one, the team really stepped up a notch too. So I think I would agree with both of you there. CBM equals Bryant Smith. Interesting comparison. I'll have to go back and see if I agree with that. That's a crowded Mama G's tonight. Are you there right now, Drip Edits? Or are you just saying, do you think it's going to be? It would be nice. It would be nice to be there and have some mama's love right now. All right, we talked about individual stats. Let's look at these team stats tonight. Whew, man, I just think it's going to be good. 42% from the field for Auburn, 37 for Alabama. Now, those are probably swapped earlier in the first half, to be honest with you, the way it was going. 3-point percentage, only 26 for Auburn tonight. They dominated in the paint. That's really what the story is here. They didn't have to knock down their threes. Alabama, though, only 9 for 26, 35%. Even if they had pushed it into the 40% range, I don't know that that would have been enough for them tonight. It probably would have stayed closer for longer. Maybe it puts them in position better for the rest of the game, but not a great night for them shooting on the road. Free throws tonight, we've already mentioned 80% for both teams. So I'm going to tip my hat to not only Auburn, but Alabama for an appreciator of free throw percentages. Always looking for 80%, and I appreciate that they both did that. I wish we hadn't shot that many. 53 free throws attempted. That's ridiculous. That's just Auburn. Ridiculous. Turnovers tonight. My goodness, folks. Would y'all just look at the beautiful, beautiful turnovers? Now, we want 0, but 15 for Alabama, 5 for Auburn. So many good stats to talk about tonight. So we looked at free throws. We looked at turnovers. The last piece of the puzzle, it's a push in the free throws. Auburn wins in that category. Rebounds tonight. Not a big differential, but Auburn does win that one 42-35. As we always talk about with those 3 team stats, they usually tell you the story of the game. Usually, not necessarily the win and loss, but the narrative of the game, in my opinion. So those are your important stats. We'll look at a few here in a second. I'm so glad Nelson fouled out. What a creep. He does give you a creep feelings, doesn't he? I don't mean to be mean, but he gives you a little bit of a creep there, doesn't he? James Barnett, good to see you, sir. Kick those elephants back to T-Town, baby. The Bama crowd is real quiet. Yeah, they're not going to really show up tonight. You know, it's it's not a good night for them. Aiden got into his own head tonight, but then overcame it. Just you showing. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to remember about Aiden Holloway. He's young. We put a lot of pressure on these kids. You know, if I may reflect a little bit, a lot of that's being put on Walker White for football coming in. A lot of pressure and stuff like not to open those doors. We're only talking basketball tonight. Folks, just because you think the grass is greener on the other side doesn't mean it's going to be. Sometimes these things take time. Aiden's a phenom. We've seen the flashes of that. Give him a little bit more time. The great thing is we have got a great team that even when he's learning, growing as a player at the collegiate level, it doesn't matter because Trey Donaldson's dominating. It doesn't matter because Jalen Williams having the best season of his career. It doesn't matter because Janai Broome is locking down. It doesn't matter because KD Johnson is having one of the most well-rounded times that we have seen him hit since his beginnings here at Auburn. And I could keep going on and on. It doesn't matter if someone is having a little bit of a lull right now. The rest of the team picks each other back up. Whew, I'm a little bit fired up tonight. Can you tell? In a good way. All right, rest of the stats, maybe. Let's see if there's anything else that tells us important. Second chance points tonight. Auburn doubled up Alabama 12-24. Bench points 8-31. Auburn wins that one. Points in the paint 40-26. Fast break points 26-8. Look at these defensive stats, y'all. 12 blocks, 13 steals for Auburn. Alabama doesn't get anywhere near double digits in either of those categories, and 15 assists tonight for Auburn. So a lot of the times I try to pick a stat team-wise that is the most important, that tells the official story of the game. You could pick any one of those, but I'm going to go a little bit outside the box. It's the fouls tonight, and I'm not just talking about for Alabama. I'm talking for Auburn. They put both teams to the line. Both teams did a good job of making their free throws. The fact of the matter is, Auburn's home court advantage, the way that they're playing together right now, is just better than Alabama. And let me just say this right here for Alabama fans. I'm going to say it, and you're going to have to deal with it. Auburn is a better basketball team than you. And that's okay. Right now, that's the reality. I talked earlier about comparing the two games. Let's do that real quick. And then I'll get to some more commentaries and questions that I have from you guys. Let's compare the two games, the one in Coleman, the one in Neville Arena. Coleman, you had an Auburn team come in there, go down really quickly, like 14 points, and that was at the half, and had to come back and did defeat that deficit. Alabama eventually does get the win, even after Auburn overtakes that, gets a lead themselves. They had to shoot one of their best nights. It was one of the best nights that they had on their home court, and they barely squeaked out a win against us. Flip that script. Here at Auburn, they, on the other hand, got their butts handed to them. Yes, you're a great three-point shooting team. Yes, you got great talent. As much as I don't like Nelson, he's a good talent. Sears is clearly a great talent. Griffin's a great talent. So many good, talented players on this team. And I think Nate Oates, as much as I don't like him, is a good coach too. But the difference is, what do the two teams do at home? Yes, Alabama got a lead tonight. Yes, Alabama overcame a deficit. But what happened after that? It doesn't matter what happens in the moment. What's the end result? A walloping of a win by the Auburn Tigers, a squeaker of a win by the Alabama Crimson Tide at their place. Alabama is just not as good as Auburn, and you need to face that reality if you're an Alabama fan, and that's okay. It'll be all right. It'll be all right, I promise. Woo! Fired up tonight, folks. Let's see. Bama had one of their worst three-point percentages tonight. 35% from the field is not from the three-point line arc is not that bad. One win away from our 2022-23 regular season win total. I wasn't aware of that. That's a cool little stat. Shows you how proficient this team is in. Only 4 losses. So it's what? The 23rd game. So this would be 19-4. Am I correct on that? Is that record correct? Nate Oates thought they were going to Neville Arena. The Bama team thought they were going to the jungle. The Bama fans thought they were going to the barn. AU sent them straight to the woodshed. Well, that's a good little thing you put together there on Facebook, Andy. Nice. Well played. And our lights stayed on. I spent the entire stream without making one single joke about that. I have been so well behaved. The jokes just write themselves. So many are in my head right now that I'm just going to choose not to say at this moment. But if it's a high school gym, at least our lights stay on. That's probably the best one that I can say right there. Devin is just getting on Nelson tonight. It was hilarious when Nelson tried to start something with CBM, then had to get subbed out. Yeah, Daddy came calling, go sit down next to him. I hope Nelson is going to be around for another year or so we can have some fun messing with him. He seems like he gets way too much in his head. Here's the difference between KD and Nelson. KD lets it fuel him. Nelson lets it frustrate him. Lots of people checking in tonight. Guys, if this is your first time here, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook, try to come over to YouTube if you can, but please do smash the like button everywhere, and then make sure you're following, subscribing, all the good things, liking the page if you're on Facebook so you don't miss content from us. A lot of good folks here tonight. All right, we're at 28 minutes. We try to get out of here in 30 minutes, but it's not going to happen tonight. We are about to talk about what's next and then wrap up our thoughts on this game. But let me do this first so you guys continue to give me your thoughts and comments. What's coming up next here for E2C Network? If you're regular here, you know the drill, but let's talk about it for the folks that might just be curious what they can catch here. Next up for us, the next scheduled content, more content is always coming out, live stream Auburn versus Florida post-game show, just like this one on Saturday. Don't miss it. Sunday night, the Auburn Experience live recording. You can have a part in it in a way. Episode 66, our main show of everything we do, 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays. It is back. It's going to be a little bit of an abbreviated show / maybe early start time, but we're going to do Auburn Family Night. A little bit interesting game time that evening for Auburn basketball, but we are going to get an Auburn Family Night in. 8 p.m. usually is when it starts on Wednesday evenings. And then, of course, Auburn versus South Carolina post-game stream. That is everything coming up that is scheduled. But always stay tuned, subscribed, following everything, everywhere, E2C Network, so you can get all kinds of content from us. Let's take a look ahead, shall we? What do you think? How are we feeling? Big games coming up. Florida South Carolina, Kentucky. How are we feeling based on what we've seen from this team thus far? Chris says, is it just me, or does it seem like we always play the Gators at Florida? I agree, Chris. Feels like we do end up there a lot. I don't know why. I don't know why, but it does feel that way at times. Does the band play at basketball games? I've never been to one. Corey, have you never been to a basketball game? Yes, they have a pep band that plays. You can't hear them anymore because Neville's too loud. James, are you calling for 5-0 out of all of those? Out of the Ole Miss to Kentucky? Is that what you're saying? Because that'd be Ole Miss, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, Kentucky. Boy, I don't know. I do not know. Auburn has a really good opportunity to show that the Ole Miss game was not just a fluke, that they can go on the road to places they traditionally don't win, Florida, and get a big win. You got to face former Bruce Pearl assistant Todd Golden. It's going to be tough. I think people underestimate how quickly he was going to get the Florida program back to where it needed to be competitively, maybe not to stature, but competitively. And it's going to be a challenge. South Carolina is shocking everybody. They're coming here, yes, but they are the upstart team, the team that is ready to continue shocking the world. And then it's just Kentucky. So to me, I'm not going to drop necessarily a 5-0 prediction, but it wouldn't shock me if Auburn takes a loss somewhere in the next 3. I really think it's a high likelihood, just given how well the SEC is playing right now. James kind of asked it, Kyle, do you think we win out? I think this team is different than after the Ole Miss halftime talk from Chad. This team is more than hungry now. I don't know that we're not going to win out. Let me just go ahead and put that to bed. We're not winning out. And you can clip this, share it with me, tell me how wrong I was if that ends up happening. I will be so glad to eat crow in that we are not winning out. Nobody, I think, is winning out the rest of the way. It's just not going to be done in the SEC this year. Chris, I agree. Todd Golden is a good coach. There's a reason he was an up-and-comer when Bruce had him here. What was the California team? Santa Barbara? Not Santa Barbara. Was it Santa Barbara? Anyway, he had them playing really good and in the tournament last year, 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah, so 3-2 most likely, 4-1 possible. Corey says Auburn is 89.9 favored to win against South Carolina. I agree. At home, if it was at their place, I wouldn't be shocked if it was kind of swapped, to be honest with you. Too difficult to win on the road in the SEC this year. So many good teams. Yes, it was. Thank you. Thank you for that. I know I'm hitting a lot of different things here. And whenever we play Mike White, he coaches like Billy Donovan, and he's at Georgia. So just get ready for that too. Folks, I know that there has been a lot of emotions leading up to this game, a lot of emotions that stem back to the frustrations of that bad week that started with the Alabama loss, but they have been rectified. Auburn and Alabama are both really good basketball teams. Auburn is the better basketball team, and that's not me being an Auburn fan. Just saying that. The facts back it up. Compare the two wins at each other's home and what happened, how they're both playing, what they both do. One's a more complete team than the other. One's a more level-headed team than the other. Alabama's going to have success. Auburn's going to have success. They are two of the best teams in the SEC. But tonight, powered by Janai Broom, powered by him, Jaylen Williams, and plenty other cast of characters on this team, the Tigers get an amazing win, 99-81 in Neville Arena. Man, it is good to be an Auburn Tiger, folks. And much better temperature and room in the chat tonight from you all. All right, folks, we're going to call it a show. Thank you for hanging out with us. Smash the like button on the way out. Follow, check the links in the description on YouTube, all the good stuff. As always, thank you for being part of our little family within the Auburn family, and I appreciate you being here. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle, and roll, tears, roll.